Ever since 1973, there's been a rule, you could call it, with mental health professionals across the United States called the Goldwater Rule that basically prohibits mental health professionals from offering their diagnoses or really even their medical opinions on public officials that they have not personally seen for any kind of consultation. Now, the reason this rule exists is because in 1973, a bunch of mental health professionals wrote a paper that was published in a magazine that made some pretty outrageous claims about Barry Goldwater. And because of those claims and because the doctors had not actually examined him, Goldwater sued for libel and won. And then after that, a panel with the, if I can find their name here, the American Psychoanalytic Association got together and said, all right, here's the rule now. You guys can't do this anymore because, you know, we just got a massive lawsuit, so stop doing it. There's only one person left, still alive, from that 1973 panel, and his name is Dr. Alan Dyer. And Dr. Dyer, this week, well, in an article, I should say, published this week with HuffPost, said that it was time for that rule to probably go bye-bye because Donald Trump's mental health problems are so severe that mental health professionals need to be allowed to talk about it. Here's what he said. And again, coming from a guy who helped write the rule, you know, almost 50 years ago, is now saying we got to get rid of it. He said, quote, I find it concerning that he doesn't complete his sentences, seems to lose track of the question he's trying to answer or avoid, and that one thought doesn't lead to another but appears to veer tangentially off track. He seems to be progressively cognitively impaired. He then went on to say, I would want to do lab studies, imaging studies, and a battery of psychological tests. One would want to know if this is dementia and decreased cognitive function. So this doctor, who of course is now retired, thinks that not only do we need to do the psychological tests, like we need brain scans, we need actual lab work. We need to see if his brain is even in one piece anymore. But of course, he can't come out and really say anything because of the rule that he helped put in place. And for the record, we have had scores of mental health professionals offer their opinions about Donald Trump. Most of them, and I have to give full credit to him anytime I talk about this, is with Chauncey DeVega with Salon.com, who has been talking to these mental health professionals for years in interviews for Salon, writing up what they're talking about and what they think could possibly be wrong with Donald Trump. But outside of that, few people have done that. And certainly nobody has done it to the degree that Chauncey DeVega has. But now we're at a tipping point. Now we are at the point where these mental health professionals need to be interviewed, not just for Salon. They need to be interviewed for the New York Times, for the Washington Post. They need to have a primetime slot on 60 Minutes, on the Rachel Maddow show, on CNN. That's what needs to happen. But because of that rule, because of that fear of, you know, massive lawsuits, because you haven't examined the guy, they can't do it. Even Dr. Bandy Lee, who was one of the lead authors of the book that came out in 2017, The Dangerous Case of Donald J. Trump, where you had all the mental health professionals writing about what they perceived to be the mental problems of Trump all the way back then, 7 years ago. She was fired from her job. Listen to this. Bandy Lee, contributions to The Dangerous Case of Donald J. Trump, was a professor of psychiatry at Yale University, was fired for that. And she knew she could obviously face serious consequences for breaking this Goldwater rule, but she did it anyway because what she needed to tell the public outweighed losing her job. She was brave enough to speak out. A lot of these other people, most of the ones obviously that have spoken to Chauncey DeVega, they were brave enough to speak out. To hell with the consequences. And that's what needs to happen. The public needs to be aware of this. The majority of people in this country do not consume hardcore political news on a daily basis. The majority of people in this country do not watch cable news. So they're going about their day. They may tune into the local news in the evenings, but they're not getting this. They may even watch the Trump rallies and think, wow, this dude's a little weird, but whatever. Not understanding that these could be symptoms, according to mental health professionals, of a serious underlying condition. So without these mental health professionals being able to go out there publicly and openly to talk about these issues in a way that does garner headlines that local news outlets can't ignore, these people will never know about it. You know, this is something I talk about frequently here because I think it's a massive issue and it should be disqualifying for Donald Trump. But I do that because it has to be done. I do it because the major outlets aren't covering it in the hopes that maybe somebody's going to watch this, somebody's going to hear this information or copy the information from the link that we put to all of our stories and say, hey, Trump-loving friend, have you thought about this? Hey, independent voter, have you thought about this? Have you seen this? Because again, most people are not consuming this type of political news on a daily basis or even a weekly or monthly basis. But we are too close to the finish line now to let Donald Trump's mental problems continue to go without a serious discussion. But it's not a discussion like we're having. It's a discussion that everybody needs to be having with any voter that is on the fence. Because those are the people that need to understand what is at stake in this year's election. Did you know that there are way more ways than just right here on YouTube to watch us on Ring of Fire? In fact, if you're not following us across social media, you could be missing out on so much wonderful content that we have to offer. We are on TikTok at Ring of Fire Media. We are on Twitter at Ring of Fire Media and Instagram at Ring of Fire Network. And if you want to find me, Farron Cousins, I'm all over social media as well, whether it's X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. I'm at Farron Balanced. Pretty easy to find me. And while we're here, make sure you're also subscribed not just to this channel, but to the America's Lawyer YouTube channel as well at youtube.com/theamericaslawyer. And for even more content from me that you will not find on Ring of Fire, you can follow my other YouTube channel at youtube.com/FarronBalanced.